He walked into the NHL at 18 and started doing things defensemen aren't supposed to do. Not easing in, not playing it safe, not learning quietly in the background. He was scoring 20 goals, breaking records that have been sitting untouched for decades. Passing names like Phil Housley, moving into Dennis Potvin territory, touching marks connected to Bobby Orr. And the strange part is how quickly it happened. Matthew Schaefer was the #1 pick, so people expected him to be good, expected him to grow into a top defenseman over time, expected him to handle big minutes one day. What nobody expected was this kind of impact right away, where an 18-year-old steps onto an NHL blue line and starts bending games in his direction almost immediately. If you think this is just a hot rookie run, something that will cool off once the league adjusts, it helps to go back and see how this was built, because the dominance didn't come out of nowhere. It just arrived faster than anyone thought it would. Schaefer grew up in Hamilton, Ontario, in a house where hockey was always part of the day. And like a lot of kids in that environment, he was on the ice early, learning the game through repetition and instinct, building habits before most players even understand what habits matter. He was the younger of two brothers, always chasing, always watching, and that kind of upbringing tends to shape players in ways that show up later when the pace increases and the pressure gets heavier. Then, life hit him early in a way that most young players never experience. His mother, Jennifer, spent 2 years battling breast cancer before passing away in February 2024, and the timing made it even harder. Because just months before that, his billet mother in Erie, Emily Matson, had died. And not long after, Erie Otters owner Jim Waters, someone who had become an important figure in his life, also passed away. By the time he was 17, he had already carried more loss than most players deal with in an entire career. What stands out is that he never tried to separate that from hockey. He carried it into the game with him. He has talked about praying before games, about visiting his mom's grave and kissing the tombstone, about using that connection as something that keeps him steady when everything around him speeds up. At one point, he skipped his own high school graduation to speak at a grief center, standing in front of families dealing with the same kind of pain he had just lived through. That kind of experience changes how a player handles pressure, and you can see it in his game, because nothing about the way he plays looks rushed or overwhelmed, even when he is facing situations that usually force young defensemen into mistakes. Before he reached juniors, he was already separating himself in youth hockey, playing through the Ontario Minor Hockey Association with the Hamilton Junior Bulldogs and later the Halton Hurricanes, where his production started to look different from most defensemen at that level. During the 2022-2023 season with Halton's U16 AAA team, he recorded 12 goals and 20 assists in 25 games, then followed that with 14 points in 5 playoff games, while helping the team win a championship. And even then, the way he controlled play from the back end stood out more than the numbers. International play followed the same pattern, with appearances for Canada at the Canada Winter Games, the U17 World Hockey Challenge, the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, and the U18 World Championship, where he collected gold medals and took on increasingly important roles, often being used as a go-to defenseman in situations where coaches needed stability and control. When he entered the OHL, there was no uncertainty about his draft position, as Erie selected him first overall in 2023, placing him into a system that had already produced elite talent. And from the beginning, he was given responsibility that most rookies don't receive. His first season produced 17 points in 56 games, which doesn't jump off the page, but the usage tells the real story, because he was playing meaningful minutes and showing the puck-moving instincts that would later define his NHL game. The following season started unevenly, with mononucleosis keeping him out early, but once he returned, he quickly showed another level, putting up 22 points in 17 games with a strong plus-minus before suffering a fractured clavicle at the World Juniors, which ended his season. That stretch matters because it showed how quickly he could scale his performance once he found rhythm, even after interruptions. By the time the 2025 NHL draft arrived, he was widely viewed as the top prospect available, with NHL Central Scouting ranking him as the #1 North American skater and describing him as a franchise-level defenseman, someone who could control both ends of the ice and eventually anchor a team's blue line. The Islanders won the draft lottery with a 3.5% chance and selected him first overall, and the moment carried more weight than a typical draft selection because his suit jacket was lined with photos of his mother near his heart. And when he put on the Islanders jersey, which had a cancer ribbon with her initials, he paused and kissed it, turning what is usually a routine stage moment into something personal and lasting. Then the season began, and everything accelerated. By late March of his rookie year, Schaefer had around 22 goals and 51 points in roughly 70 games. And while that stat line alone is impressive, the context makes it more significant because he was not being sheltered. He was playing over 25 minutes a night in some games, handling power play duties, killing penalties, and matching up against top competition while still producing at a level that placed him near the top of the league among defensemen. The records followed quickly, starting with him passing Phil Housley for the most goals by an 18-year-old defenseman, then becoming the first player at that age and position to reach 20 goals, and then breaking Dennis Potvin's franchise record for goals by a rookie defenseman with the Islanders, which connects his name to different eras of the game in a very short time. Specific moments pushed the story further, including his multi-goal game against Columbus, where he became the youngest defenseman in NHL history to accomplish that, surpassing a mark held by Bobby Orr, and his 2 goals in 55 seconds against Montreal, something that had not been done by an 18-year-old defenseman before and had only been seen at that age from players like Sidney Crosby. Those moments matter because they change how people talk about a player, moving him out of the category of promising rookie and into a broader historical conversation much earlier than expected. What supports it is that the underlying performance matches the production, as tracking data shows him near the top tier of defensemen in skating speed, puck control, and shot generation. And that lines up with the way he plays, because he carries the puck cleanly, accelerates through the neutral zone, and understands when to join the attack without exposing his defensive responsibilities. That balance is what draws comparisons to Cale Makar, whose rookie season showed a similar ability to control play from the back end, even though their statistical paths differ, while the Bobby Orr comparison appears more because of the records being broken than because of style, since Orr's impact came through sustained dominance over time. What makes this season stand out is that none of this was the expectation going into the draft, where the focus was on his reliability, intelligence, and long-term potential, rather than immediate high-end scoring production, which is why the speed of his impact has caught so many people off guard. Where this goes next depends on how he builds from here, because one strong season establishes a foundation, but consistency over time is what defines a career. And the tools he has shown, including skating, awareness, and composure, suggest that he is equipped to continue developing at a high level. If the production continues and expands into team success and playoff impact, then the conversation will shift again, moving beyond rookie comparisons and into something more permanent. But for now, what stands out most is how quickly he has forced the league to adjust. Because players are not usually expected to influence games from the blue line at 18. And when someone does at this level, it changes expectations immediately.